Hello, everybody. This is Pamela Fagan Hutchins with Wine, Women, and Writing. And this is the show where I talk to other authors about their books that either have great female characters at their core, or in fact are about great female characters, as we'll see in a moment today, and the real life experiences those are based upon. And we do it with a little oversharing, a little irreverence, heavy quantities of whatever gets us through the day. There are no rules. As for what's going on this week, we'll start with announcements. And I am excited to say that last week, Sick Puppy hit the shelves. So it now joins Livewire, and we're 2/3 of the way through this rapid release of the Maggie trilogy. Maggie kicks ass. And the giveaway going on this week on my website, PamelaFaganHutchins.com, is for a smaller version of this blue labradorite transformation ring. It's an everyday power ring by Jewelweed Sprouts. It's pretty awesome. So hop on over there and enter. You need to go to my blog to do it though. So website, click blog. And I wish you luck. And you can also get all the past episodes of my show there. So how cool is that? But speaking of cool, this woman that we're going to be speaking to today redefines cool. You can see her over there looking amazing. This is Kathy Murphy. You guys welcome Kathy Murphy and her Pulpwood Queens Tiara-Wearing book sharing guide to life. Welcome.
Thank you, Pamela. I'm so excited to be here.
When we connected via video and chatted for a few minutes, I immediately felt like I'm not worthy. I'm here in my drabs, and over there we have this explosion of gorgeous color and vivacity. So I feel like I have to up my game today, Kathy.
Well, I hope it inspires you because, at this last chapter in my life, I'm going out, full stops with a wine glass in one hand and a book in another. Look, see, I'm ready for you. Yay! And
you are.
I'm just getting started. I even have my own wine now, Breathless Wines.
Oh, that's so cool.
We have partnered with this Napa winery, and we package now our Pulpwood Queen books with these champagnes. And so I'll tell you all about it in a little while, but go ahead.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Okay, so for those of you that are not yet familiar with the force of nature beside me, this is, as I said, Kathy Murphy. She has a book, but the book has its genesis in a story that is bigger and is ever expanding, and that is your mission and the Pulpwood Queens. So take it away, Kathy. Tell us a little bit about the Pulpwood Queens and about what you've done with it, how it started, and then that'll lead us to the book and the art and everything else, your crazy life.
It's really funny because this is my book, The Pulpwood Queens Tiara-Wearing Book Sharing Guide to Life. This is the new edition, and this is my art on the cover. But I started with the very first part of my book is with this chapter that pretty much the title sums it all up. It says, when life gives you a lemon, forget making lemonade, make margaritas. So
I love that.
I lost my job as a book publisher's rep, and I've always been a book person my whole life. I had my nose stuck in a book, and it was my dream job, and I had no idea what to do. I traveled to 4 states, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, and Oklahoma, to call on independent bookstores, and I would talk to them about all the latest books that were being published for that season. And what happened, this was 1989, the big box chains came in, and all my bookstores started closing. In fact, there's very few independent bookstores left, and even in Texas, they're mostly chain stores. So since I was the last one hired, I was the first one let go. And
ouch.
I really did not take it well. I'm not from Texas. I mean, I have that accent now, but I grew up in Kansas. And when I moved to Texas, I found that you could do something that only Southern women I know do, and it's take to their bed. And they kind of have a hissy fit and they just hole up in their bed for a while. I think that's hilarious. And so I did, and I took a Russell Stover box of chocolates and a big old stack of books, and I just wallowed in it for a while until I got tired and ran out of chocolates and books. And I called my sister and I said, what do you think I should do? I mean, I had already done a business plan for a bookstore, and I knew that the town I lived in was too small to support one. And she said, well, why don't you go back to doing hair, which is how I was putting myself through college. And I've been a cosmetologist since 1977. I said, oh, I'd be bored. I mean, I worked for a while for Elizabeth Arden in California as a makeup artist. I've been doing it for so long. I said, I just really want to do books and do that. And she said, well, open a hair salon bookstore. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I opened a hair salon bookstore, doing the hair could support, me selling the books.
Yes.
And I'll do it at the same time. And my friend in Dallas, Jennifer Anglin, who owned a children's bookstore, said, call it Beauty in the Book. And so that's what I did. I opened this store. And it was really crazy because I sent out press releases to let everybody know I was doing this. And the first person that called me was John Grisham's magazine, Oxford American. And they said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I lost my job and I've got to have one. So I'm opening a hair salon bookstore. And they go, oh, well, let me see about this and we'll call you back. I figured that was the end of it.
Yeah.
Well, they called me back and they said, we're coming to your grand opening. So the grand opening was covered by John Grisham's magazine, and they dubbed me hairdresser to the authors. And they sent a fabulous Texas author by the name of Carol Dawson, this raven-haired beauty, and she wrote the story, and then I gave her a makeover. And so when that story debuted in 2000, when I opened my store, every author in the South started calling me and saying, I want a makeover. I want to come. So it wasn't long after that, I thought, this is my work. And the local book club asked me to come and join them. And I thought, oh my God, I can join a book club now. I'm not on the road. And so when I went to join them, I had read the book and I had a wonderful time and knew all these ladies. And at the end of the meeting, I said, oh, what are we reading next month? I can't hardly wait. And the hostess jumps up and she grabbed me by the elbow, and she's a little bitty thing. And she pulled me out to the galley of her big Southern plantation home. And she said, oh, whispering, she goes, I'm so sorry, Kathy, but we didn't invite you to be a member. We just invited you as a guest. Oh, I was so embarrassed. And all
my gosh.
It was so embarrassing. And so when I went back into the room, nobody would make eye contact with me. And I thought it was kind of that moment in The Help. You remember when
Yes.
Jessica Chastain was knocking on the door trying to bring the pie and they were having the meeting and they all hid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I felt just like that. And I said, oh, you know what? It's time to go get my kids from school. And I excused myself. But I thought, who made up,
Made up those stupid rules.
I know. And they said, she told me, she said, well, there can only be 8 in our book club because that's all that really fits around the table. And I thought, well, I came to your meeting today and that made 9. Yeah. We had this fabulous lunch. And I just thought,
are we for them or can we call them something? Are we friends with them now or can we?
Yes, I'm still friends with everybody, but it really hurt. And I thought, well, if I'm ever going to be in a book club that I want to be in, I guess I'll start it myself.
Yeah.
And I thought, what's going to make my book club unique? And I thought, we're going to crown ourselves queens because we're beautiful within, because we're readers, and we're not going to be an exclusive book club. We're going to be inclusive. Anybody can join our book club, regardless of their economic background or their color or their religion or whether they're male or female. Anybody could join. And I ran an ad in the paper and 6 complete strangers showed up. They thought I was a joke. They thought, what could a beautician, I just hate that word, what could a beautician know about reading? I mean, basically, it was that they, people buy into that stereotype that if you're a hairdresser, you
Yeah.
obviously are blonde and dumb, and it's just like Dolly Parton always said, first of all, I'm not blonde, is what Dolly always said. And I'm certainly not dumb, and she's not. And I support her Dolly Parton Imagination Library and have for years. But
She's wonderful.
I think we've got to stop judging a book by its cover. Now, I try to create a pretty, eye-catching cover and we wear the tiaras because we want people to notice that we are ordinary people doing extraordinary things. We
Right.
are supporting authors, literacy, reading, the arts, and we have a big book club festival every year that we call Girlfriend Weekend. In fact, we're getting ready to celebrate our 20th anniversary. I'm so excited because the Dallas Morning News has promised they're going to come back this year. They came for our 10th. And we have 787 chapters now nationwide and in 15 foreign countries. And it started with 6 strangers in a town less than 2,000 in a hair salon bookstore. And we've been on Good Morning America, Oprah Winfrey, all the Texas shows from Bob Phillips, Texas Country Reporter. We've been featured in Los Angeles Times and newspapers all across the country, a magazine, Newsweek, Time. I'm not saying this because I'm trying to, well, I kind of am tooting my own horn, but I'm really telling your listeners that you don't think that if you're just, a soccer mom like I was with my 2 small daughters, that you can do something like this. But I'm telling you, if you get mad enough and if you get motivated enough, you can honestly go after anything you want. And so I started this book club. I had no idea it was going to just bloom. In fact, I was just talking to Claire Sarah, who is a screenwriter in Los Angeles, and she wrote the screenplay for my book. This book is going to film with DreamWorks.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and we were just talking about how long it takes for it to come out, but the Pulpwood Queen will soon be in the future, hopefully a movie, and people can see that it really started from a very small place. East Texas.
One of the things I loved in your book is there's a quote in the first chapter that says, you can have your cake and eat it too, but first you have to buy the ingredients and make the cake. And that's what I'm hearing in your story is that, and that's wear the tiara, you deserve it. You bought the ingredients and made the cake. You can have everything that you want to if you are willing to create it for yourself.
Well, you have to work really hard. I mean, I've been up since 4 this morning. I'm working on my 2 big art shows coming up because I'm an artist too. And these are also going to be where I'm featuring my book. And I work 24/7 on,
right.
But it's not work to me because it's the thing in life that I find the greatest joy. And just like what you're doing, if you find great joy in this, it doesn't seem like work to me. We're just having a conversation and I want everybody to know that I came from a very small town in Kansas, Eureka, Kansas, a little rural town. I'm a small town girl, but I just had some big dreams. And I think the only way dreams can really come true, and I try to be a model for this, is to show that you have to work really hard and you can't ever rest on your laurels. You've got to keep going because, several years ago, it's been quite a few, I went through a devastating divorce and I was forced to leave my home, sell my home, and I had to sell my beauty in the book. And that was really hard because I built that up from scratch and I had to sell it because I opened it when I was married. So, your husband gets half. And even though I did it all myself, that's just Texas law. So I had to start over at 57. That's a tough time because you're now, upper middle age, and it's a whole different world out there. But it's been quite a few years since then. I'm going to tell everybody out there, I'm 62 now. Life has never looked better. I have never been happier. I am going after my dreams. I bought a camper. I'm taking my dog and pony show on the road.
Oh, I love it.
It's just,
Man,
it's great, Pamela.
our timing went like this. I just sold mine. I had done a few years of book touring, and I was like, I'm tired. I've got to do a new chapter. But we were talking in our chat up before we went live. I was complimenting Kathy's hair and how she's able to get the color to stick. If you put color on my hair, it basically reverts to this the next day. And she gave me her secrets, or some of them. And we talked about how there's a certain age at which a woman starts to walk down the street and realize that no one's looking at her anymore. And that you go into a store and the young clerks pass by you and don't offer to help, and you become invisible. And yet you're more capable, you're more ass kicking than you've ever been in your life. All your experience, if you were a man, it would be building up to your CEO moment. I'm using that as just an example, but for a woman, you become invisible unless you fight back on it. And that, my friend, is what you have so beautifully done.
Well, you know, an age is just a number. When I went back to college, I'm around kids that are younger than my own grown children. And being around young people is very inspiring. And, you know, I know they didn't know what to think of me when I pretty outrageous hairstyles. And even they go, I don't think I could do some of those things. So I think they were kind of amazed by, and when I tell them how old I was, they go, what? No way. And my favorite story is my two grown daughters came to campus one day and were looking for me. And they came into the art department where all the studios are. And they said, has anybody seen Kathy Murphy? And they said, this really gorgeous guy said, oh, you mean Kat? She goes, I believe she went to the library. She should be back shortly. And they're going, huh? Mom? And I said, oh, that's my friend, Nick. He's just, you know, one of the guys. And they just go, unbelievable, Mom. But my daughters are really proud of me, as I am of them. And they inspire me every day to keep this young attitude. And I think as we get older, sometimes we forget what it was like. Go to a college and spend a day. You will be so inspired by these millennials, because people tell me, oh, they just, you know, they don't want to work. I did not find that at all. They inspired me every day, and they helped me learn PowerPoint presentations. You know, I learned from everybody, whether they're in the senior citizen assisted living, because I love to read to those people, or if you're at a college or a school or whatever. I love being around kids, always have. But, you know, you have to get out there. You have to get out there, and you have to, you know, get out of your comfort zone. I mean, I sit for weeks here at the house painting, but then like this afternoon, I'm getting out. I've got to go get more paint. I've got to go get some framing picked up, you know.
Well, you already did your makeup and hair for the video, so it's the perfect timing, you know?
Yeah. And people stop me on the street and they go, oh my God, I love your hair. I could never do that. I go, why not? I stop them. I go, why? I will tell you exactly. Next time you highlight your hair, if you will just, you don't even have to do anything other than get some stains, wash it, let it dry, and then just run it through in some strips on those highlights, and it'll just blend. Leave it on there for, you know, about an hour, and then rinse it out. And it lasts 6 to 8 weeks for me. And it has no peroxide in it at all. It's just the highlights. You have to highlight it first. That's what most people skip, that step. But if you highlight it first, they'll last. It'll grab. I mean, this part here is really, this has been 2 weeks and it's still but it fades out back just like yours, blonde. It fades
But
back.
it's pretty. Even the side that's faded has this really neat aspect. And it, as we were seeing earlier, I want you to show people some of the artwork. It really looks good with your fabrics and your paintings that you,
Oh
because you've got
yeah.
several big
Uh,
art shows you're about to display at, one in Houston and one in Alabama.
yeah, I'm going first to Fairhope, Alabama. I have 4 events I'm doing there with Page and Palette, the bookstore. I'm
Huh?
going to their art center, their art gallery, and doing a fashion show, book talk, art show. Some of my art, I use an unusual medium. I use what they call, it's called alcohol inks. And I'll be showing you, these are 3 of my paintings that I have completed that I just sold. I've got to take them to the post office
Gorgeous.
today. These are going out to one of my friends in Florida, who is a former lieutenant colonel in the Army, and he's an author and an attorney. And he bought a big piece, and now he bought 3 more. But I work on my art every day. And then my fashions, this I have on a kimono, and these are, I take my paintings and I put them on fabric. And then I wear these kimonos and scarves. I have a real bohemian vibe, but you can go to shopvita.com. And if you'll type in the Pulpwood Queen, you can see my entire collection. And they're perfect to wear, especially if you're on the road as an author, because you put on these kimonos over anything and you look very dressed up. You can wear them as a beach cover up. I'm
Totally doing this. You're speaking my bohemian language here.
Yeah, well, I'm a 70s child, and I only create what I want to wear, and I only paint what I want to see. And
Right.
people go, well, is there anything you can't do? And I go, well, there's not anything I won't try. I would roller skated and I snow skied back in the day. I can't do that anymore. Had a couple of falls that I go, no, I don't need a broken hip or leg. So now what I look for is things. I got me just a good old, bicycle, a good old black sturdy bicycle, ride it around. My daughters have jumped out of planes. They have done some pretty crazy stuff. And so have some of my Pulpwood Queens. But I just try to do something every day that's getting out in nature. That's the best thing. I live in the woods. It sounds like you do too. I like to get outside, and I've got a new grandson, my new grandson Hawthorne. He's just a couple weeks old. I'm already designing a tree house because we have many adventures, and and then I've got my glamper. I'm going to be camping all over the place. It's also great for
your glamper. We spend half the year living in Wyoming on the face of the Bighorn Mountains, and then half down here near Brenham. Bring your glamper up to Wyoming, and you can come up.
I've been wanting to go up that way. I've never been to Yellowstone or Glacier. And my former co-host for Girlfriend Weekend, Jamie Ford, lives in Bozeman, Montana, and he's been
on the way.
Yep, trying to get me up there. So my first big glamper trip is going to be to Fairhope because we're camping. Yeah, we're going to Fairhope, and that's the furthest I've ever gone. I actually took it to Girlfriend Weekend last year, and we camped during my book club convention because they have hookups right across the street from the convention center. So we ran back and forth in our pajamas all night long, getting everything ready. Small town, Jefferson, Texas, but that's where it all began. And I just thank you so much for letting me talk about all this stuff.
You're welcome. Hey, what's the date on your Houston art show? The date and the location?
It's May 22nd. And if you go to my website, which is www.thepulpwoodqueens.com, on my blog, it has my calendar of spring events.
Great.
Mm-hmm. On the side, it has all my posts that are updates on things coming up. Great. And there's even a click where you can go to all my fashions. So I try to make it as easy as possible.
And they can get your book through there too. So if they wanted
Yes,
just like,
but I'm going to give a big plug to Main Street Reads is a suburb in a suburb of Charleston, South Carolina, just opened. Main Street Reads, you can find it on Facebook. But Sherry Staunch is a Pulpwood Queen who owns it, and she has created a whole Pulpwood Queen bookshelf area, and she gives discount to members. So order from our independent bookstore, Main Street Reads, or any of your local bookstores. You can get the book. It's available on Ingram, Amazon, wherever. But this is the newest edition because I went back to my maiden name, which is Kathy L. Murphy.
And you know something, when I was pulling up the information about it, and I'd seen it a few years ago, and the cover is different with your new art, right? You changed out the cover as well when you did
It's actually the third edition. The first two editions were published by Grand Central, and then they decided, it came out in 2008. They decided to take it out of print, but I couldn't have it go out of print because it's the first book year to read in the book club. So
right.
I brought it back myself, and I printed through Amazon because I needed to get it out there to all these new members. But I have another new book coming out. It's the Pulpwood Queens celebrate 20 years, and it's going to be debut later this year in time for our annual 20th anniversary convention. It's going to be published by Brother Mockingbird Publishing, and Susan Cushman and Jonathan Hote, who's the executive director of the Pat Conroy Literary Center, are editing the book. But the book is going to be all the stories from the authors of the things that they remember the most from all of the years of the Pulpwood Queens. And I'm telling you, I just got mine in this week from Jamie Ford and Michael Morris and the screenwriter Claire Sarah. And I had forgotten so many of these things that happened. And I used to take authors around in my damn minivan. Those stories kept popping up, and I just heard from the Heppenstall sisters, and they've got a great story they're going to submit. But it's also from some of my book club members and some of my most ardent supporters, even though they're not in my book club. They may have featured me in the news or like what you're doing today. But I wish I'd done this book a long time ago because these stories are great, man.
It's like a history of the whole the movement.
If anybody's ever thought about joining a book club, you should read this book. Whether you join mine or not, you should be in a book club because we started out as complete strangers, and now I have to say my best friends of my entire life are in my book club. And they're my best friend Heidi, who I grew up with in Kansas, runs a chapter in my hometown. I just talked to her this morning. To Jenny Hilderman, who is an author I met in Atlanta when I was on tour. Redkin and Raquel Welch, who does the put on hair pieces, sponsored me to do big hair makeovers on my 27 stops month and a half tour with my Pulpwood Queens on my book tour. So all those girls that I gave big hair makeovers to, a good amount of them started chapters. And I just saw Jenny in Atlanta when I was going through there. And now I just travel all over visiting chapters. And I have an executive director now. Her name's a Pulpwood Queen, Tawana Anderson Neal, who rides with me shotgun. And we're getting ready to do a bunch of those again. So all aboard, come and join us.
I'm trying to find first of all, I'm trying to overcome my my big fat hermity introverted self and find somebody to go with me to girlfriend weekend, because my
don't need to have anybody come with you. Bring somebody. But I had a girl from Virginia she's a one-woman chapter. She joins online and she goes, I don't know anybody. And I go, Lisa, when you get here, I go, you just attach yourself to my hip and follow me around. And she hadn't been there 1 hour, and the Pulpwood Queens of Southwest Louisiana adopted her. And she'll be back this year too, but she's up in Bristol, Virginia. And I have 3 chapters up there now. So up in Virginia. So I've got girls everywhere, but you can come by yourself. I guarantee you somebody will adopt you immediately because they go, you're by yourself, come join us, come join us. And it's so neat to see the relationships. I mean, in fact, River Jordan and Shelley Rushing Tomlinson met at Girlfriend Weekend. And we did this crazy thing together where we did a takeoff on Jeff Foxworthy, you know, the the blue collar tour. We did the pink collar tour. They had so much fun meeting each other that they did plan their own book tour. It was called Wing and a Prayer. And they went out across the country with each other, and they met at Girlfriend Weekend, and they didn't know each other from Adam. And so, you know, you'll make friends and increase your fan base. And if you're an author, oh my, you will definitely find your people here because they support our authors big time.
Well, book people are book people, you know, whichever side of the page you're on, the writers are the readers. And I find a lot of the readers are writers, you know, so it's circular. Well, we're going to have to wrap it up, and I don't want to because it's been fun. But Kathy, thank you so much for being on. It was just a delight.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Pamela. I'll tell you nothing. I'm like you, nothing more than I want to talk about the books. And I really appreciate your sharing the word because it's that important. You know, reading can change your life. It certainly has changed mine.
I think that you are a wonderful example of that. So for all of you out there, please know that this is a solely owned and copyrighted production of Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. I have to say that every time. And that I'll be back next week. The book to be reading is The Clincher by Lisa Preston. It's a horseshoer mystery, her first one, super voicey. So we'll talk to her next week. And go out there and get you a copy of Sick Puppy because the final book in the trilogy, Dead Pile, comes out in less than a month. We're doing this bing, bang, boom, and you got to be ready for Maggie or she's going to run right over you. Other than that, that's all I've got. You guys have a great week and go out and read you some great books until I see you next time.